Time to cook with Susan Beck. Well, I am going to make a recipe that I just tried earlier this week for the first time, and it's for a creamy mushroom ramen. I don't know, we've been so excited about ramen lately. We've been going into Madison and eating at a place called Strings Ramen, and oh, it's just fantastic. It's almost like a soup. It's got great broth and lots of vegetables in it. You can get them with pork and chicken and different things in it too, but one of my favorites there is actually a vegetable one. I'm going to show you some pictures here of some of the great food we've been eating at Strings Ramen. Here are a few of the dishes you can get at Strings Ramen in Madison, and they have a Chicago restaurant as well. This first picture is of ramen with some pork belly. Then we have ramen with all vegetables. And this last one is a new item on their recipe with black garlic. Lastly, here's a picture of the creamy mushroom ramen we are going to make today. Creamy mushroom ramen, so I need some mushrooms. I need about 8 ounces of mushrooms, and these are cremini mushrooms. When I made it earlier this week, I used portobello mushrooms. You could use just your white button mushrooms as well. And for that matter, if you just wanted to use canned ones, you could, but fresh is always better in my opinion. So I have one more of those mushrooms. I just love mushrooms. I am also going to be using some spinach in this. Those will be my 3 vegetables today. I've got some green onions as well. So I'm just going to use one of these, and I am going to cut that little root end off, and then the white part of this I'm going to go ahead and cook with my onions, and then I'm going to use the top greens just for a garnish. So we'll have 2 garnishes. We're going to have that green onion top and then some chili sauce. We're going to season this with some garlic powder, and we'll use a vegetable stock. I used chicken stock the first time I made it. I'm going to use vegetable stock today because it is a vegan recipe if you stay away from the chicken stock. I will be using some coconut milk today. Now, coconut milk is kind of interesting. I've never used it before, and mine was completely solidified, I thought. And then when I opened it up, there was water like underneath it. So I did a little Googling, and it's completely normal for this to become solid and liquid. And the solids rise to the top and the liquids are at the bottom. So I just took the can off the top, and it is completely usable, and it will just melt and dissolve and become all liquid again once it goes into our hot pan. So lastly, let's talk about the ramen noodles because they are the key to ramen. So I found these ramen noodles right at Walmart, Japanese style ramen noodles. This is 4 servings. Another thing about this recipe, very easy to make it in 1 serving, 2 serving, 4 servings, and so forth. And it was great because when I opened it up, I didn't have to figure out how much of it to use. So I'm going to make 2 batches again today, or 2 bowls, I should say. Each square is a serving, so it's perfect. Now, if you want to use these little packets, these cheap ones that you can get for, I don't know, 30 cents or something at the grocery store, these are great as well. The noodles are just fine. Just throw the little chicken packet seasoning or the beef one or whatever you've got, throw the seasoning packet away, and just use the noodles. I want to give you a close-up of that coconut milk. It's probably an ingredient that many of my viewers have not used. I was able to buy it right in my little hometown grocery store in the Asian aisle next to the soy sauce and the oyster sauce and so forth. All right, as you can see, I've got liquid down there on the bottom, but on the top, it's kind of all solid there on the side and so forth. But it's perfectly fine to use, and this is probably going to happen with your coconut milk too. Move over to the stove here. Got my burner on medium heat. I'm going to put in 1 or 2 tablespoons of olive oil to cook my mushrooms. And I like cooking it like right in this big saucepan where I can do everything just in one pot, from the sauteing of the mushrooms to the wilting of the spinach, the boiling of the ramen, and so forth. All right, let's pick this up here. So into here is going to go those green onion whites, the bottom of them, and my mushrooms. And I'm just going to use a wooden spoon here Now the mushrooms are looking nice and soft, and they've gotten a little bit darker in color. So these are ready to add that vegetable stock, or you could use beef stock or chicken stock as well. But I have vegetable stock today. Ooh, look at that sizzle. I'm going to add 3 cups of this, and I want to keep that at a boil. So I'm going to put a little lid on that for a second, kind of bring it up to a boil so that it's ready for my noodles. All right, it's boiling away there, so we're going to add in the garlic powder. I've got a 1/4 teaspoon of that, but you can adjust that as you'd like. Plus these 2 little patties of ramen noodles, whatever you'd like to call them. Now they're going to be a little bit, crunchy here at first, so I just usually let them soften up on one side, flip them over, but those noodles will all loosen up just fine. I think the lid helps too, to kind of steam it a little bit and get them separated. Flip those over, and they will loosen up, I promise. Well, I'm just using my wooden spoon here to just break those noodles up a little bit and get them all separated. It's probably going to take 5 to 7 minutes for those noodles to thoroughly cook, but the best way to know when they're ready is just like with any pasta. If you were making an Italian dish rather than an Asian dish, you would just taste one of your noodles. Oh, this is looking great. And now that my noodles are cooked, I'm going to take 2 big handfuls of spinach leaves and put them in. And then we just want to cook those for about 30 seconds until they just kind of start to wilt. Lastly, the coconut milk. And yes, that's a little clumpy, but it will dissolve right down into that broth and be just fine. This is the part that turns it into the creamy mushroom ramen. So I find that my spaghetti claw is like a great tool for this because I can get those noodles lifted out with the spinach and the mushroom. It's just beautiful looking, I think. I think that of every dish we have at Strings Ramen, it comes and it's like, oh, this is just absolutely gorgeous. All right, I'm gonna add that liquid then in. Half of it in each one of these. And just such an easy meal. And the optional part is your garnishes, but I am gonna put some green onions on the top of each of these. I just think they're spectacular on there and add a ton of flavor. This is also optional, a little chili sauce that you can drizzle on the top. Plus it makes it look gorgeous with that little streak of red running through. All right, there we go. Our ramen is made. It's just quick and easy. And oh, I know it's gonna taste so good. I like a great big soup spoon for this. It's kind of like a soup with that broth down in there. That is just fabulous. And you know, Strings Ramen is an excellent place to eat, but this ramen at home is just as good. That creamy broth and that coconut milk, and then you get a little bit of heat. Shouldn't really call it heat, but just a little bit of spice from that chili powder. And the onions are just flavorful, and I just love those sauteed mushrooms. They're just nice and soft, and I don't know, you could saute those mushrooms up, they just get such a richness. If you've never had ramen, I really suggest you give it a try.